Let's look at how to use the app Superimpose. So first thing you need to do is you need to find the image that you're going to be using for your photoshopping or whatever you want to call it. So find the image on Safari and then hold your finger down on the image until this pops up and select Save Image, and it will save it all into your iPad. You're also going to need the image that you want to replace it with. And I've already taken that, so it's in my photos. Now I'm going to open up the app Superimpose. Now, if when you open Superimpose, somebody else's project has been left here, you have to delete it in order to be able to start a new project. So you're just going to go ahead and select the trash can. Now, that's important to know that your image will not save from one class to the next. So you need to be able to finish the entire thing in one period. Now you can always try once in one period and then try again in the next period. And remember, you can create multiple recreations using the same image. So let's go ahead and bring in my background. My background is the image that I want to put my face onto. So there's my background. And now I'm going to import my foreground using those same two squares on top of each other on the top left corner. My foreground is the image that I'm going to put on top of this. So I will use that picture, lovely photo of me that I've taken, and I'm going to crop it because I really don't need anything outside of my face. That's the only part that I'm going to include in this image. And I'm going to select choose. All right, now my face is there. Now the first thing I need to do is I want to zoom in so that I'm similar size to what Lindsay Lohan's face would be. And then I'm going to use the transform tab. And with the transform tab, I can use two fingers to make my face a little bit smaller. Now, in order for me to see whether my face fits perfectly on top of hers, I'm going to need to reduce the opacity. So here on this side here is your opacity tab. You're going to want to reduce it somewhere halfway just so that you can still see your face and also the image you want to replace it with. And then you can resize, and you can also rotate it so that it kind of fits as perfectly as you can. So I'm going to say that I fit perfectly with Lindsay Lohan right there-ish, and it's okay. I can always come back and adjust it later. Now I'm going to bring back the opacity or the opacity. Now I'm going to tap on the mask tool. And, oopsies. In the mask tool, I can still use two fingers to move around my canvas. First thing I need to do is I need to get rid of the background of my image that I don't really need. So I've tapped on the magic wand here. You can adjust how much the magic wand is going to take from your image. So the lower it is, the less it's going to select. The higher it is, the more it's going to select. So I'll show you what that means. I'm going to tap on my image where I want to get rid of things. So that just erased a little bit. The higher my threshold is, the more it's going to take. So that took too much, so I need to undo. The undo button is the top left corner there. So I'm going to adjust my threshold back to where it was small, and I'm just going to go ahead and take out as much of my hair and my background as possible. And again, I can zoom in really close if I need to, so I can get a nice tight view, and I can use the magic wand appropriately. Now let's say that you end up with some little specks sort of around the edges that you still need to get rid of. Then you're going to switch to the brush tool. And if you tap on the brush tool again, you will see that you can adjust the size of the brush as well as how smooth the edges are. So I'm going to go ahead and use my brush tool now just to get rid of, that was too big, just to get rid of some of these extra little areas that I don't need. And I'm just going to do the bare minimum of erasing because I really want to have something to work with for when I have to pull my gradients, which you're going to see next. Oops, I think that was a little bit too much there. All right. All right, so let's say I'm happy with that. Maybe a little bit more down here at the neck. The next thing I need to do is I need to blend my face in a little bit more with hers. Right now it's very harsh. So I'm going to pull a gradient. So what that means is, I'm just going to get rid of a little bit more here of my chin. Okay, so to pull a gradient, you're going to tap on this little tool here. That's a linear gradient. Do not use this one, the bilinear gradient. Use the linear gradient. And what you're going to do is you're just going to pull down. So I've just clicked on anywhere on the page where I want to blend, and I drag down, and then I double tap to accept the gradient. So I'm going to keep doing that multiple times until I can see that my face is blending in a little bit more with her face. Now, the colors are still not right, and that's okay, but just doing this is a good start. Now, if I go too far, or I blend her face in too much, or I go the opposite way, or do something that's incorrect, I can always undo. So let's say I made this mistake right here. I can tap on the undo tab. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue using the gradient tool to try and blend my face in just a little bit more with her face. And I'll put the video on time lapse while I do that. All right, so once you feel like you've done enough blending, you can then mess around with the colors. So I'm going to tap on the filter tab down at the bottom here, and then I'm going to choose the settings. Now I can see, for example, that my face, or maybe it's just the way I took the image, is a lot pinkier than hers. So I'm going to use some of these tabs to try and adjust that. So this is the color tab, and I'm simply just going to move away from magenta, which is like a pink, and that already has helped a lot. I'm also going to move away a bit from the yellow. Maybe I need more yellow. Let's see. Somewhere in the middle there. And a little bit of adjustment towards the cyan as well, because I was looking a lot redder than she was looking. And then I have a couple of other things that I can change as well. So if your image was color and you need to change it to black and white, you would reduce the saturation. If you want to increase the saturation, that just makes the color much stronger, a lot more contrast. You can also control the brightness. So if your image should be a little bit brighter, you can make it brighter. If it should be a little darker, you can make it darker. And then there's another feature here that you can check out called effects. These are basically like filters that you can add to your image to try and make it look more accurate. So let's say you're doing an older painting, you might want a filter that looks a little blurry, or that looks a little bit dark. There are all sorts of different filters here that you can use, play around with them. You may also want to blur your image a bit if you're using a painting, so that it looks a little more similar to the original. So to blur it, you're going to go to this little circle, and this is how you blur. So obviously I'm super blurred there, not as much, none at all. All right, don't bother with that one. So those are the features that you want to look at. And then you can always go back and mess around with the gradients again. So if you want to try, once you've got your colors more correct, you can try messing around with the gradients a little bit more. I'm pretty happy with how this looks. I mean, I am no Lindsay Lohan, but but I think my face is blended in quite nicely with her face there, so I'm pretty happy with that. So once you're happy with it, you can go ahead to the Home tab, and you're going to click the box with the arrow pointing to the right, and you're going to select the export destination as photos. So click on that, and it should now save it into your photos. Now, I just want to show you something. I've now tried this twice, and I think I've gotten better. So here's the original poster. Here was my first attempt, and you can see here that you can pretty clearly see an edge of my face and where it sort of meets with her face. And then I tried again. That's the original again. And so this was my second attempt, which I think looks a little bit better. It still looks funny, obviously, because you know what I look like, and that's not me. But it could be interesting, especially if you try it with celebrities, etc. So that is how to use Superimpose. Good luck.